Mike Grainger, former chairman of TT Line, gave evidence yesterday to the Public Accounts Committee in Tasmania into the hearing, into the debacle on having nowhere to park the new TT Line vessels. In late August, I met with Mike. His business, Liferaft Systems Australia, is extremely successful, built on the back of his hard work. But his other love was TT Line, having served as the chairman of the company for more than 11 years. When I met with Mike, I could tell that he was disappointed, and not because he was unfairly and outrageously sacked, but because the TT Line became a scapegoat for an incompetent minister, Tasmania's current treasurer, Michael Ferguson. Mike said that this is the first time that the TT Line has been gaslighted by a stakeholder minister. The first time that a minister has put their own political survival ahead of doing the right thing by the government business. What an absolute disgrace you are, Ferguson. Mike presented all the evidence that proves Michael Ferguson knew about TasPorts blunders and put his own political survival before his ministerial responsibilities. All this has come at a cost. Mike was pushed out for threatening to tell the truth, and the CEO of TT Line, Bernard Dwyer, resigned to focus on his mental health. These two men, who were great at their jobs, were backed into a corner by an incompetent minister, and don't you even start me on that useless TasPorts. Don't start me on TasPorts. Ever since I've been in Parliament, you have been a waste of space, absolute waste of space. If you want to sack someone, you should have sacked everyone at TasPorts. The TT Line actually kept detailed notes about what was going on, and Mike's evidence paints a picture of a minister who doesn't give a damn about doing his job properly, even Tasmanians for that matter. For Minister Ferguson, it's clearly politics before Tasmanians. In yesterday's public accounts hearing, Mike set the record straight. He proved that the minister was briefed on the challenges that the TT Line was facing in details in dealing with TasPorts. He gave evidence that despite knowing about it, Michael Ferguson said ridiculous stuff like, "I just want to play," and I quote, "I just want to play nicely in the sandpit," end quote. Well, I say to him, why don't you grab a Tonka truck toy while you're there, mate? Amuse yourself, really. And Michael Ferguson expects us to think he's competent enough to be a treasurer. Please. As Mike explained, the delays in ordering ships started way back in 2013. They will continue when Scott Morrison put pressure on Peter Gutman to consider an Australian manufacturer. It is so unfortunate, it is an unfortunate fact here in Australia that we don't have the capability to build the kind of ships that we needed across the Bass Strait. The constant merry-go-round must have been extremely frustrating for TT Line. As a Tasmanian, what's infuriating is to see that TT Line can build and deliver a top-class port in Geelong on time and on budget with the Corporation of Geelong Ports. Mike says Geelong Ports were amazing and they couldn't have done more to get the project moving, ensuring it was delivered as promised. Confidence, that's called competence. That's called competence. But in Tassie, we have TasPorts. That's right, those useless things down there that is motivated by self-interest, blind to their own failures in crumbling ports, and overdue and over-budget projects. It's like TasPorts has bent over backwards to make sure that the Berth 1 development has been as difficult as possible for TT Line. TasPorts is committed to latching onto TT Line and sucking on the teat of the Tasmanian taxpayer dollar. As much taxpayers' dollars out of their company as possible. After all this saga, Michael Ferguson got a slap on the hand and was given another gift. Wait, it gets better. When the heat got a bit too much, he was removed himself from the infrastructure portfolio, but on the other hand, he was gifted another portfolio. Let's be clear, Michael Ferguson knew what was coming. After the last election, he split the infrastructure portfolio to enable the Minister for Transport to have oversight of TT Line. Now, this was all brought on by the political campaign by the Labor opposition. I guess credit where credit is due. They were like Dalmatians and realised that there's smoke where there's fire. But to be clear, that is where my praise for Labor ends, because Labor relentlessly had the TT Line, its firing line, holding a press conference at its terminal, constantly pointing the finger directly at TT Line, even accusing them of breaching caretaker conventions. This was proven not to be the case. But at the end of the day, this is really a story about a stakeholder minister who's stuffed up so badly and continues to gaslight people who do not deserve it, that can actually get a job done. That's his problem, you see. Ferguson can't get anything done. He's useless. Apparently the Premier is appearing before the Public Accounts Committee. But Minister Ferguson, what is wrong with the Public Accounts Committee out down there? And why isn't Ferguson in front of you? What he needs a bodyguard. Jeremy Rockcliffe, the Premier's got to be a bodyguard for Ferguson these days. You can't be serious. And even when he was health minister, he teched our health system. That's what he did, drove our health system, Tasmania. That's what Ferguson did, into the ground. That's what he's been doing. Michael Ferguson has to go. The Tasmanian people deserve better than a minister that can't play nicely in the sandpit, and he sure as hell, he won't be able to handle the Tonka truck.